There are many, many more of us than you. There are many, many more of us than you. There are many, many more. Many, many more. Many, many more than us than you. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Guys. Democracy, unity, love and hope is alive and well on the streets of Manchester, UK. Oh my God. Welcome back to the Weekly Wigs. She's had a day and we are getting into it on today's pod. Oh, I was so excited the entire day to come back home and hop on this bloody mic, because let me tell you, we got a jam-packed episode today, guys. I'm getting a bit sprucey on my editing. We're going to be throwing a couple clips in here. I tried to be Miss Live Reporter on the streets of Manchester today. You know what? We're doing this off the cuff. It's a little bit raw and ready. I don't know how it's going to chop together, so do forgive me on the production level if it's a bit iffy here and there, but it's my first time giving it all a go. But oh my gosh. Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday, Wednesday, Friday, Thursday, whatever the bloody day is for you. I am recording this on a Saturday afternoon, and I've not long come back from a very, very inspirational day in town where you would think on the surface was going to be a bleak and depressing day when you hear the words Britain First are coming to town. Now, we got a lot to get into. I'll explain to you who Britain First is very shortly, and we'll get into the full detail. But before I guess, dive into probably a political heavy episode today, I just want to check in. See how everyone's doing. Thank you again for joining me back on the Weekly Wigs. We are on episode 17. Is this 17? I don't know. I lost count at this point, but we're alive and well. We're kicking. Last week, your gal was in Strugsville. I can't lie. She was in Strugsville. The winter depression was fully in throttle. I was having a rough time at work. There were just things going on. And you know what? I can't lie. Was I probably feeling this way 24 hours ago? Yes, I was. But what happens when you give things a bit of time, you make it to the weekend, you find revitalization and you find a bit of hope. You reset your mind and you go again. And that is where I find myself today. So obviously today's main focus of my episode is going to be around sort of the rise in fascism, far-right politics and beliefs and rhetoric in the UK specifically. I mean, it does broadly apply to, unfortunately, lots of the globe right now, shall we say. But I just wanted to sort of document and share with you what I saw today. There was a demonstration, there was a rally, there was a lot going on. But before we hop into that, thought I'd just do a quick little culture corner, recap of the week, all that kind of stuff. This last week we saw Pancake Day. Did you have a nice time on Pancake Day? Do you celebrate it? Do you care? I mean, I'm just here for the pancakes, obviously. I actually was sat up this week going, what actually is the whole reason behind Pancake Day? The way I've just never even understood where the origins come from. Turns out it's like a Christian celebration. It's all linked into Ash Wednesday, or because even though we know it really is Pancake Day, it's actually in the sort of Christian holiday known as Shrove Tuesday. So it's all linked to not fasting, what's the bloody word? It's like Lent. Oh, I don't know. I'm sorry. You can tell I'm just like so not religious and don't understand any context of that. But let me actually get the definition and the real deal here. Pancake Day or Shrove Tuesday in 2026 falls on the February the 17th, marking the final feast for the 40-day fasting. Oh, I was bloody right. It is fast. Oh, girl, I don't know why I doubt myself. Marking the final feast before the 40-day fasting season of Lent, which begins on Ash Wednesday. It's a traditional day to eat pancakes, to use up rich household ingredients like eggs, milk and sugar. Common activities include flipping pancakes, hosting races and enjoying various toppings. My go-to toppings on a pancake day is always a classic lemon and sugar, although I'm not gonna lie, I definitely add out-of-date Jif lemon, you know, like the fake lemon juice that kind of comes in a little pretend lemon, not actually fresh lemon. Although fresh lemon would work just as well, but I didn't get around to getting one, and I thought, oh, I've got a little Jif in there from last year, and then you kind of forget that those Jif lemons definitely don't last very long. I added anyway. Did I die? No, I didn't. So there we go. I also scraped the last bits of my Nutella left. I thought I had a full pot. Turns out I didn't. I was like, no! Made all my batter. I was scraping to get some on my pancake. So I had some Nutella and strawberries. And to be honest, I don't think you can go wrong. Classic toppings, if you ask me. I know a lot of people go a bit bougie these days. You got the Dubai chocolate, the pistachio, the Bueno Kinderellas. Oh no, there's like so many bloody flavours these days, but I kept it nice and simple, made myself a really easy batter. I did a triple flip. Who is she? Quite enjoyed myself on pancake day. One thing I did not enjoy in this last week, which I actually think might have happened the same day as Pancake Day, is I had to go get myself a new prescription because my eyes are very, very bad. I may as well be blind at this point because I'm squinting all the time. I'm like, I can't see. And to be honest, it's my own fault and it's very self-inflicted because I don't think I've had a new prescription for about 5+ years. Oops. No, take your eye health seriously, kids. Go have regular checkups. But 80 quid out of my pocket to go towards reframing. And by the way, didn't have to actually buy a new set of glasses because I found this exact frame on eBay for like 30 quid, which was the plus side. But to just actually fill the frame itself, it cost 80 bloody quid. I said, excuse me, sir, 80 British pounds just so I can see. Irks me every time because I didn't choose this life, you know, this life chose me. I didn't choose to not be able to say. Why did you have to punish me? I do legitimately feel like on the NHS or the health service, it is quite baffling to me how people with eyesight problems don't get any sort of like contribution or help. Like, you know how even with, you know, teeth and the dentists in the NHS, like if you're lucky enough to be an NHS patient, which, don't get me wrong, is very hard to be these days, but if you are, then you get a much subsidised version of healthcare that you don't have to pay hundreds and hundreds of pounds for. Why isn't it the same for eye care? It's not bloody fair. The most I get is a workplace voucher, which not all workplaces do, but sometimes you can get just the eye test for free because an eye test still usually costs about 25 quid, which is really not cheap for an eye test. And like, with all due respect, sorry, I'm going to just like shade on Specsavers for 2 seconds, but whilst they were fine, and I'm sure the glasses will be more than fine, I can't lie, it was a very rapid eye test. Like, they do your classic checks and, like, take a little picture of the eye or whatever. But the actual woman who was doing my test of, like, reading the letters, I think I was in and out of there after, like, 5 minutes. It was like, yeah, read that. I was like, I'm paying £25 for this. I want, like, a deep inspection of these eyeballs, please. Please make sure they're healthy and real. Anyway, can't say I was too amused about that, but hey, the upside is she will be HD clear vision and I'll no longer be squinting. So I look forward to seeing the world in a much better frame. One last thing I want to touch on in Culture Corner then, before I move on to Politics Corner for today, is I got done watching the America's Next Top Model documentary last night. Binge watched the 3 episodes. Oh my gosh, do I have some thoughts. I have seen a lot of discourse this week. I had some people in work chatting about it. I've seen some podcasts, people reacting to it. It's all over TikTok. And I just thought I'd have my 2 cents. Now, America's Next Top Model, a very sort of iconic, maybe for the wrong reasons, reality TV competition program. I feel like you must have lived under a rock if you don't know what America's Next Top Model is. But we'll give you the lowdown if you don't. Miss Tyra Banks, who was a, famous supermodel from America, very much broke the boundaries at her time when she was a young model. We're in the fashion world of just white, skinny women, right? Very much not allowing any women of colour into the fold, right? And she broke that barrier, she broke that mould, and she did really well for herself. She became a big global superstar model. Love it, love it, love it. And then her young self decided, hey, I want a program. I'm going to send myself into the stratosphere and break all the barriers. Let's make a competition program where we try and find the next top supermodel. And I think its intentions in the initial stages were probably valid enough, probably decent and honest enough intentions to pass on the wisdom, to get more people breaking the barriers, right? And in Tyra Banks' kind of own words, her aim was to basically break the fashion industry pretty much. I'm not saying this like verbatim, but this is pretty much what she was saying. She wanted it so that more representation was included in the fashion world. We saw more sized bodies, we saw different skin colours and all the rest of it, right? A very earnest and amicable goal, which, yeah, we could all agree with that. We'd like some diversity. But the way that this television series basically spiraled out of control, and, bear in mind, it was a long standing program. What was it on for, like 10 plus years or something? They had something like 25 seasons, something along those lines. So it was a very long standing program. It was extremely popular back when it came out in the sort of noughties. It was like a cult hit, right? And we've all generally remembered kind of iconic moments from it, like the "we were all rooting for you" and this, like, that whole moment where Tyra Banks is just screaming at the girl. Very memeified, shall we say, over the years. And basically, sort of when COVID hit and everyone was just sat there binge watching because they had nothing to do, America's Next Top Model had come back to the fold. And of course, all the Gen Zers of today are reacting to it. People are making commentaries on TikTok and it's blowing up again, which is, I think, why they now are having a documentary about it, right? And I gotta be honest, there was just a lot about this documentary that did leave me feeling a bit mad at the end of it. And more so kind of mad at, like, Tyra Banks, at the people who were on the show, not the contestants, not the models themselves, but like the judges, the producers. Like, there was a lot to answer because some of the stuff, right, that's obviously transpired over the years, back in the noughties, was semi-normal back then. Like, things that were really outrageous. I mean, I can't go into every single detail because I feel like I'll be here all day and you should just go watch the documentary. But there were a lot of outrageous things that happened on that show that you look at now in hindsight, you go, oh my God, how did they put that on the air? Like, just extreme racism, fat phobia, like so much wrong stuff happening on this program, right? They used to weigh the girls, like, talk about the toxic culture of diets. And we all know that, like, the fashion industry has a poor reputation for diversity, especially in bodies. And unfortunately, I think it probably is still like it now, where they very much shun anyone that isn't literally like a size 0. And that was the beauty aesthetic back in, like, the early 90s into the noughties. Like, it was all about, like, heroin chic, as they literally called it. And so America's Next Top Model was supposedly meant to be this force for good that was going against that, and it just completely didn't. So when Tyra Banks is sat there on this Netflix documentary and she's trying to essentially defend herself from the jump and say, this was the aim, like, this is what we did, we opened doors for people, it's like, girl, no, you didn't, because you still weighed people on your show. You still allowed really awful people like Janice Dickinson to call all these girls fat and chubby. It was... How could you sit by and honestly believe that you were doing something good at that time? And there was, like, something she said at the start where she sort of was like, well, the thing is, we were trying to be realistic about the fact that we were meeting people where we were at it at the time. I'm not really phrasing this very well, but she was sort of saying, in terms of where we as a society were at that time, it was a balance of trying to break the mold, but also meeting people where they are. And it's like, girl, that goes against the whole point of breaking the mold. You don't meet people where they are. You break it. You try and change people's minds of where they are. So this, like, complete delusion that she's clearly still got to this day, like, what, 20 years after the program finished, that they were really out here doing good for the world. Like, it's so delusional, it's beyond. So that kind of made me mad, just listening to her constantly go on about, like, we broke barriers, we opened doors. And it's like, yeah, but did you really, girl? I don't know about that. I think you just made a lot of money for yourself. I mean, in some ways, you could argue it was definitely, like, a very revolutionary TV program that very much set the precedent for other reality TV programs. If you think about, like RuPaul's Drag Race today, it's, like, very much inspired by that. And it obviously captivated a nation. Of course, it was popular for a reason, because it was a brand new type of competition reality that I don't think was in much existence before that. Like, reality TV was still very much growing at this time. It wasn't quite as booming as it is these days, So, yeah, okay, you can give some credit for, like, changing perhaps an industry slightly, but in terms of actually changing these young women's lives and making any form of changes in the fashion industry, I think is a very, very far-fetched statement to make. And I mean, reality TV as a whole is, like, you could honestly get into probably a full episode about this in terms of how exploitative it can be. There's, like, two sides of this argument where people will often say, well, you sign up for it, you know what you're getting, it's reality TV, it's meant to be dramatic, it's entertaining. entertainment, blah, blah, blah. But then there's that, and then there's just pure exploitation and not actually taking a duty of care to the people that you're basically exploiting for your production company, your TV network, and for your presenters who are getting paid a very pretty penny to work on it. And like, there were so many instances, obviously, that happened that will have just absolutely emotionally damaged these poor young women. Because you have to remember, like, most of these young women were very young girls, like, hoping for a dream, some of them coming from very broken families. And producers are not stupid people. They know what they're looking for. It's no different to the X Factor thing of like, oh, we're looking for the sob story. Like, they're in the business of television. They're there to make a storyline, which I understand to a degree, but it's like to prey on someone's trauma in such a real and raw way. And like, there was this one part where I mean, some of the photo shoots that they made these girls do were outrageous. And like, race, ethnicity swapping, pretending to be homeless people. And then there was this one contestant, they were doing a photo shoot to be like crime scenes, and she was essentially had to look as if she'd been like shot in the head, and her actual mother in like real life had been shot and paralyzed. And she was like, the producers knew that about my life, yet they still put me in that position to do that photo shoot and have it like across millions of platforms on TV. Like, oh my God, the dark nature behind that is so insane. And then Tyra Banks has just kind of got the nerve to then say on this documentary, well, you know, the thing is, you guys were demanding it. What? Girl. And there was just too much like dodging the blame for me, specifically from Tyra. And like, there was this other episode where this poor girl, she basically got sexually assaulted and like fully basically raped on they filmed it. Like, she was a young girl. The producers brought in a bunch of guys to do like a model photo shoot with them. They was like male models, and then they were all staying at this house, and then they just basically fueled them all with liquor and booze, told them all to get in the hot tub together. Things got a bit heated, but this girl is so insanely blacked out because of course none of them are eating either, because they're making them starve themselves. She doesn't know what's going on. She's a vulnerable young girl who's in and out of consciousness, and then she ends up basically being sexually assaulted, say it how it is, by one of the male models. But they were filming that and they were treating that as if like, oh, she slept with him, oh, and she's cheating on her boyfriend. And oh, anyway, I won't go into every single detail because I don't want to like give it all away. But it's just insanity that people signed off on that. And I think a lot of the narrative is sort of like, well, you know, it's very easy for us to say that now, and, you know, hindsight is 2020, and that's just what was normal at the time. And I just think that's a very fine line. Like, yes, it's true that norms and standards of that time were insane to us now. Like, the things that people used to say, the way that people would talk about their bodies, it is crazy to think that that was the norm, and it was the norm. However, I don't know that, like, sexually assaulting a girl has ever been normal. I don't think that's something you can just excuse as like, it was the times. Like, I don't know, the whole thing just is so icky, and it's a really horrible thing to watch back now. Like, what a, quite frankly, horrible legacy that they've left with that programme, and honestly, rightly so. And yeah, I don't know, that whole documentary just gave me the ick a little bit. I felt like a lot of it was really centrally focused around the judges and Tyra. And yes, they obviously had stories from the individual girls who were wrapped up in some of these stories, but it kind of feels like Tyra was driving that narrative. And to be honest, of course she is, because she's being paid to be a part of that documentary. Like, of course she wants to drive the narrative to make herself look less worse. And interestingly enough, there's going to be like a counter documentary, I think, coming out soon. I don't know what it's coming out on, whether it's Netflix or something else, but someone else or some other production company are making their own version of the documentary. And I'm sure that will not be quite in the same light as Tyra Banks would like to, because she's not involved in that one. So stay tuned. But yeah, those are just kind of like my overall thoughts about that situation. God bless those girls is all I got to say, because they really went through some bloody trauma. And Tyra Banks should, quite frankly, be ashamed of some of her behaviours, because I do think a lot of it was very ego-driven. Oh, do you know what? Very quickly, actually, I've just realised what I should actually address in culture/politics corner. This will be our little merging segue before I get back into politics corner. We just have to simply address the fact that ex-Prince Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, got arrested the other day. Oh my God, I was so gagged. I was glued to the news. I was actually in work. I think it was on Thursday, wasn't it? It was on his birthday. And they did it on his birthday. It was no, I'm still simply not over the fact that they arrested him on his 66th birthday. No warning. I mean, not that they would have warned him anyway, because he's just has to be treated like everyone else in terms of an arrest. But oh my God, how satisfying to see that picture of him at the end coming away from the station, and he's in his bloody car being escorted back to his house, and he looked dishevelled. He looked like a sad little rat feasting on his last bit of cheese. I've never seen someone look so terrified in their life. And honestly, I'm sorry about it, but justice to be served, like about bloody time, because Mr. Randy Andy, as they know him as, I mean, he's a nonce. Let's just say what it is. He is a bloody nonce. There's no denying it. He's a complete liar. And we've seen that proven now from that infamous interview he did with Emily Maitlis. Oh, well, the thing is, I've got a very peculiar sweating condition. And actually, I was in a Pizza Express in Woking. We now know that, not to be true, and that he claimed that he had no relationship with Jeffrey Epstein at that time. And then he basically did, because it all came out in the Epstein files. So he's a piece of shit. I really actually hope that they take it a step further and, what's the thing? They have to take away his succession to the throne. Because that's the crazy thing. Yes, they've stripped away his prince title. They basically have ousted him from the royal family in a sense that, they want nothing to do with him. They've technically booted him out of his home, even though not really, because he's still got a big home. Anyway, but point being, he's actually technically still in line for succession to the throne, which just shouldn't be a thing. So I think that is going to be probably the next big development with that. And then this really long investigation will just be ongoing. And actually, the frustrating thing in some sense is that all of this arrest actually has nothing to do with the fact that he was basically a nonce, and everyone obviously accused him of getting fiddly with Virginia Giuffre, which we all generally believe her. But he's actually being arrested for potential misconduct in public office, which is better than nothing. Would have preferred further detailed investigations into the other stuff. But I think the unfortunate thing now is that that's always going to be a very difficult thing to probably charge or pursue him with, because of the fact that Virginia Giuffre has passed away. So I can't see really any justice probably ever coming for that side of stuff. But even if he just gets a few bloody years in jail for his public misconduct, that would honestly be, I think, at least some justice served. Essentially, what came out in the Epstein files is him sending what looks to be very confidential information about his trips abroad when he was the trade envoy. Essentially, that is a public office duty role that he had, where he's drumming up business for the UK, and he's with important people in important rooms, and he's traveling around the globe, and he's doing all this stuff, right? But he's feeding all this information that is obviously highly confidential, allegedly, to Jeffrey Epstein, which is, very much illegal and misconduct in office. So I'd be shocked if they didn't have something on him, because the thing is, they don't just make arrests like that lightly. With the Crown Prosecution Service and the police services and all of it, right, they've really got to have some semi-decent evidence to even make an arrest in the first place. So that's what does make me think, oh, what do they know that we don't? And I think a few days before, Gordon Brown, who's the ex-Prime Minister of the UK, who I think was a Prime Minister probably during the time that ex-Prince Andrew was a trade envoy, it sounds like he's provided the police with new and enlightening evidence. We don't know what that is, but there has to be more that obviously we don't know about, right? Because like I said, the police wouldn't just up and do that for no reason. So I think he's pretty fucked. I think it's pretty fair to say that. But yeah, God, what drama. So what a time we're having in this country, eh? But at least we are seeing justice, is all I got to say. It's way more than what's going on in America, because they should be hanging their heads in shame over there, because the fact that Trump has been mentioned, 40 times more in the Epstein files than basically anyone else, and yet he's still there in charge of the country. So, yeah, I don't know. Don't know how that's going to go over there, because is very corrupt and very bad times in America. So if I'm being honest, don't see much improving over there. But at least we've got some action going on in the UK. And speaking of action in the bloody UK, let's wrap up now and go on to the main topic of today, which is the rise of the far right. Oh man, I mean, look, if you're even mildly into the news or politics, it probably is not a shock to you of all this stuff that's going on, right? Anyone who pays just a minuscule amount of attention will know that in the last couple of years, there has been quite a disturbing rise in the trend of far right, very sort of fascist nationalism and racist rhetoric, right? And a lot of that has been driven up by Nigel Farage, who is the leader of the Reform political party, who very unfortunately have been making some gains, shall we say. Not much, not a colossal amount just yet, but there is a bit of a scary trend going on, really, where they're projecting that he could well be the next Prime Minister. And obviously that is just horrendous to even think about, right? In the same way that America never thought they would foresee a day where Donald Trump is in power in the United States, that no one really thought that would happen, okay? And I feel like this is a very hot turning point that's happening in the UK, where it sort of feels like we're on the precipice of some big change, but we don't know what. And obviously, for the majority of us who are not racist, we hope that to be positive change. Maybe it's going to be the Green Party. They're gaining a lot of traction these days. Everyone's feeling very divided. Tories got booted out in the last gen election after a very, very long time being in power. That was a really big change. Now we're back to a Labour government, which is not going so well for them. I mean, there's a lot to get into separately there, but I won't go down that rabbit hole. And now we're at this turning point where politics and beliefs, like there's such an interesting divide going on, where there's a real mix and a mishmash of thoughts and opinions and feelings of who should be steering our country forward, right? I think, unfortunately, as a globe, maybe this is just like post-Brexit, post-pandemic, the economy is not having a great time, right? I think it's a big driving force of people's anger, frustrations, fears. Everyone wants to direct it somewhere, right? And unfortunately, there is a swathe of people in the United Kingdom, not just the UK. Like I said, this does apply in other countries, but in the UK in particular, we do unfortunately just have a very horrible history of just this deep-rooted racism in our countries. Like, not much difference to in America. You've got like the evangelical white Christians, the Ku Klux Klan of it all. Like, that's very much what we're talking about here. These are like white supremacists. Like, they genuinely do not like to live in a world where people around them do not look like them. Like, that is their genuine beliefs. They feel fear at immigration. They think that we're being taken over. They think they're taking our jobs. We've all heard this rhetoric to some degree, right? And most of us know that we call that out as a racist ideology because that is what it is. And so Britain First are, let me just bring up the page for Britain First so I can give you the facts, because they've got a bit of a history. So Britain First is a far-right British fascist and neo-fascist political party and hate group, formed in 2011 by former members of the British National Party, which is the BNP. So the BNP is just another faction of another far-right fascist political party, right? So Britain First, just like another bunch of them. The group was founded by Jim Dawson, I think I'm saying that right, an anti-abortion and far-right campaigner. The organisation's co-leaders are former BNP councillor Paul Golding and Ashley Simon. Now, Paul Golding and Ashley Simon are the ones that lead these marches, right? They were in town today. They've been in town before. This is their lead figure. These are the people they watch in the speeches. The same people that look up to Nigel Farage and they love listening to him spew on about stop the boats and stop the migrants and all this shit, right? Paul Golding, Ashley Simon, very key figures in this party. So Britain First, they are Islamophobic. They have campaigns that are primarily against British Muslims and any form of multiculturalism. They advocate for the preservation of what they see to be traditional British culture. They attracted attention by taking direct action such as Christian patrols and invasions of British mosques. It's also been noted for its online activism. Britain First registered with the Electoral Commission on the 10th of January 2014, but in November 2017 it was statutorily deregistered as a political party by the Electoral Commission after it failed to renew its registration in time. It re-registered in September 2021. Britain First has unsuccessfully contested elections to the House of Commons, the European Parliament, local government, and the mayoral. Oh, I can't even say that. And the mayor. Oh my God, I can't say that. Mayoralty. Oh my God, how do you actually say that? Mayors. You know what I'm trying to say? The Mayor of London. Anyway, they've been flopping all over the place in simple terms. So, in terms of their policies, okay, let's have a little read here. So, the organisation has been described as fascist by The New Yorker, Politics.com, GQ, and The Independent. The group's website disputes this, listing fascism as one of several alien and destructive political or religious doctrines it opposes. Britain First's founding principles stated that its aim is to protect British and Christian morality. Oh God, you can't make this up. It is committed to preserving our cultural heritage, and we oppose the increasing colonisation. I mean, that word is that we're hearing that being thrown around a lot these days. That's why that Jim Ratcliffe, the stupid Manchester United owner, got his backlash, because he's also saying that language. We're too colonised. The whole thing's ridiculous. But we oppose the increasing colonisation of our homeland through uncontrolled mass migration. Britain First is committed to maintaining and strengthening Christianity as the foundation of our society and culture, and that genuine British citizens will be put first in housing, jobs, education, welfare and health. The party self-styles itself as loyalist. It also campaigns against Islamism, immigration and abortion. Its claimed objective is to save this country and our people from the EU politically correct, multicultural insanity that is now engulfing us. On the 16th of June 2016, Joe Cox MP was fatally shot and stabbed outside of a library in Birstall by a man who eyewitnesses said shouted "Britain First" as he carried out this attack. Okay, so I could go on and on, okay? There's a lot on this page. There's a lot to read and research about Britain First, okay? But that is just giving you a taste and a flavour of what these people stand for. They are bad people, okay? They are extreme, Nazi, fascist, racist, and quite frankly, violent people. You only have to go along to a town centre. Not that they come round very often, because there's so few of them and they're so unimpactful, but occasionally, like today, when you do see them and they're out there with their bloody Union Jack flags and they're doing their little rally, you see so much vitriol and hatred and aggressiveness in their face. Like everyone else, right, who is just counter-protesting, listening to talk, any other type of protest, yeah, people are enthusiastic, people are chanting, people got signs, everyone's getting riled up, right? But nobody else chooses that level of violence. The Britain First fascist folk, they come in with complete anger. They are agitated. They just want to spew that hatred onto other people because it makes them feel better. And that's a bit of what I saw today. But thankfully, not a lot of it, because honest to God, I am so bloody proud to live in this city of Manchester, because we really came out in force. Like, I didn't have any doubts that we would, but like, it's easy to think that sometimes when we're in these dark moments, we're in this turning tide, strange narrative of our country right now, where there does seem to be a rise of it, and you just think, oh God, are we being outnumbered? Like, there's no hope, blah, 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 right? We all have been through those thoughts, understandably so, but I tell you what, all you have to do is step outside your damn door, get off your phone for 5 seconds and actually go to a demonstration or a rally, and you see the amount of people that turn up for good. And that is what today was. I do very much giggle at the way that Britain First sort of report this on their website, right? So obviously in the run-up to today's sort of counter-protest, they're making a big deal of it, obviously. It's their big fun day out. We get to do our speeches and our rally and we're going to take over everything and everything's going to be great, right? And this, I just need to read out to you from their like blog part of their website, how they sort of reported this today, right? Jeremy Corbyn leading the opposition to Britain First this Saturday in Manchester. Scruffy communist traitor Jeremy Corbyn will be leading the opposition to Britain First this Saturday in Manchester. Corbyn hates Britain, hates everything about our country, and supports foreign terror groups who have bombed British cities. Come on, girl. Corbyn is pro-mass immigration, pro-Islam, pro-communism, pro-woke, and wants Britain to become a majority immigrant nation. This line cracks me up the most. Corbyn will be leading a small crowd of LGBT extremists and anti-British socialist freaks on Saturday opposing our march for remigration. Hey, if I'm an LGBT extremist and an anti-British socialist freak, I will take that title any day, because that's just brilliant. Even with Corbyn leading their pathetic counter-protest, Britain First patriots, oh my God, give it a rest. Britain First patriots will still outnumber these hate-filled commies by 10 to 1. Oh, newsflash, you didn't. Whoa, more on that later. We are expecting a gigantic, in italics, turnout this Saturday. Didn't happen. A massive parade of British flags, much bigger than the last time, will make its way through Manchester. Join us this Saturday. Here and here. Anyway, so that's how they reported it. And let me tell you, the opposite happened. It was a time. And look, I'm going to insert in here now a little mishmash of kind of how my day went, right? What I tried to do was I just filmed a lot of clips. I kind of chronologically filmed how the day went. There were a lot of speeches that took place. So what was happening was in Manchester, as I've probably mentioned on a previous podcast, you've got kind of this main hub, which is called St. Peter's Square. And this is usually where all protests and demonstrations will take place, right? And they happen fairly frequently, most Saturdays, for all different causes, okay? Again, most of them extremely peaceful, and everyone's just got their different causes, right? And last year, I think it was August time, if I'm not mistaken, either August or September, Britain First came into that part of town. And this was the first time that I had seen something like this in person, where it genuinely perplexed me. The whole thing, I was gobsmacked when I was there, right? Because it was obviously tense. It was really actually very horrible to see, because let me just set the picture for you here, okay? So we were in St. Peter's Square, and there is a fence, like a rectangle fence, little penned off area. And inside of it was probably no more than maybe 200-300 sad little Britain First patriots with their Union Jack flags. And they're all just kind of crowded along in front of this screen that is set up. And this Paul Golding and Ashley Simon, they're stood there and they're just obviously doing their very, very intense, insane speeches, right? The things that they would talk about was we have to take our country back. We're not a Muslim nation. All this stuff, right? All this really awful stuff. And at the time, I didn't even know this was happening. This is probably very early on into my sort of growth in activism and interest in politics. And I just happened to be going through town and I saw it all going on. I thought, what the bloody hell is this? And considering, week on week, like I said, always see these demonstrations and protests. But this one in particular was really next level, because the amount of police that were there was insane. Lines and lines of riot vans. The way that they structured it last time was that they basically had everyone in the same place, which was probably not for the best. The Manchester City Council, or whoever was responsible for that, pretty much allowed them to take centre stage in the biggest hub, which I think everyone was pretty mad about, because we're all for free speech, obviously, and everyone is entitled to have their opinions on general political parties. But as we know, Britain First are a complete hate group. They're not a real political party. They don't stand for any real values. And whilst they may have that opinion, it's a hate, it's full hate crime. It just is what it is. The things that they say are completely bonkers, pretty much illegal. You would get arrested for those things usually. If you were reported for a hate crime, that you could be punished for that. Do you know what I mean? It's a crime. It says it in the phrase itself. So the fact that that was enabled was really just quite worrying, to be honest. And even though they did a fairly good job separating the groups, it was very much easy for people to merge. And basically, even with the police line there was all your regular citizens. If you weren't necessarily part of the organised counter-protest group, then you would have been very much like in the crossfire. And so I think they approached it much differently this year, which, you know, probably was for the best because it meant that they didn't get to take centre stage. It felt like a huge victory because we started off the day in Piccadilly Gardens, which is just 5 minutes up the road from St. Peter's Square. It is another very central hub of Manchester town centre. And again, there's also lots of activity and protesters and all kind of stuff that goes on there too. So I rock up, there's speeches happening, trade unionists, teachers' unions, stand up to racism. There were a lot of councillors there, Labour, Green Party. They had Jeremy Corbyn there, who is obviously the leader of this Your Party. I mean, I don't really know how well that's going for him, but he's obviously a very prominent political figure. There was literally a time in his life where he nearly was our Prime Minister, which is kind of crazy. So pretty high profile figure to have there, actually. So he rocked up about 10-15 minutes in, did a little speech. And you'll hear shortly, like, some of the speeches and what they were saying. So everyone sort of stood there with their placards. It's very, like, fun, very wholesome. Everyone's listening to, like, these really inspiring speeches. And then there was sort of a lot of, like, tension in the air. Everyone's thinking, where are they going? What's their route? Because it was a little bit unknown. I think we all knew, well, I knew because my work actually sent me an email giving us a warning, but they were basically being shifted off hilariously to this absolutely out of the way place called Castlefield Bowl, which honestly is hilarious to me how non-visible they were. Like, I can't express to you how tucked away this place is. It's funny enough, like, down where my gym is, and it's in Manchester. There's obviously lots of like canals and viaducts like that weave throughout the city, and Castlefield Bowl is one of those places that's very much sort of just out of the city centre, and it's tucked under a bunch of viaducts, and there's just some canals there, and that's literally it, right? It's sometimes used as like a venue in the summer for just like outdoor concerts, but like literally nobody walks through there. So they obviously purposely penned them to that area instead of being back in St. Peter's Square this time, which I was really glad about because that meant that they were not very visible. The only time they were visible was basically their little march that they took from the train station to get over there, which was probably like a 20-minute walk for them. And so there was this one, after they did the speeches in Piccadilly Gardens and we were all just stood there and chanting and all the rest of it, they were making us aware that, like, just so you know, we're keeping an eye on where they are because we will march too. Like, we are strong in numbers. We want to show them visibly they're not welcome on these streets. You ain't coming past. You are not coming in these central areas that we're in. And we're going to hold our ground. And I was like, yeah. So the anticipation was building at this point. Which you'll see in the video clips. And then, oh my God, the adrenaline I was feeling at this point was so major. I was like, oh, it's happening. We're fighting the fight. There was so much chanting. We had these drummers who I think they called the Manchester Palestinian drummers. It was like a samba band. They were giving so much energy and it was helping along with all the chants. And then there was this very tense moment where there was a very large police cordon line that was obviously separating the groups, rightly so. And there's riot police, there's vans, and they obviously have, a scheduled route that these Britain First people are taking to get to where they need to go. But it meant that, like, there was a crossover. There was, like, we were meeting each other between the police lines, and it was so intense, but kind of, like, weirdly exciting. I was kind of loving it. I was obviously filming everything. I was more focused on like, oh my God, I have to capture all of this. This is crazy. And just feeling that palpable energy of how many people were around. And obviously there was just so many of us in compared to them with our little flags. It felt like such a powerful moment. I was like, oh, this is epic. And I just genuinely have never felt more proud to be in Manchester. Like, it was so amazing to see how many people turned out. Like, love Trump in hate. Like, there was literally someone with a sign that said that with like a Trump face on it. Lots of really good protest signs, actually. I was going to take mine. You might see me in my little video in a second making a little note about it, but it was due to rain and I had paint on it and I thought, oh girl, I don't want to risk it. But didn't matter anyway, because there was loads of people with good signs. Oh man, the energy was crazy at that time. I mean, obviously it was a little bit tetchy because there was like some intense shouting going back and forth over the police lines. And I mean, thankfully, you know, there was no violence where I was anyway. None of the people in our protest group were like starting fights or anything like that, because we wouldn't, because we choose love and not hate. But the absolute primal aggression that was coming from some of these Britain First people from across the line. They're shouting, they're screaming, they're so violent. They just look like thugs. They look like thugs. They're a bunch of skinheads. They got cans of beer. Like the most typical depiction you can think of like an English British football thug skinhead that the most of us just roll our eyes at when we think about. Like, it was just a line full of them, sprinkled in with a couple like women too, which I just think, girlies, come on. But it is mainly men. Like, it is mainly white British men who are very, very like versed in violence. And they just look so aggressive, and they, horrible looking people. I'm sorry, just really not appetizing, shall we say. So there was a lot of like shouting going back and forth. I'm just kind of concentrating on filming. And then there was sort of this lull of like, oh, okay, what are we doing now then? Are we going somewhere? Are we just going back to Piccadilly Gardens? And then, long story short, we basically trepped it back through town, and we went on a powerful march back down to St. Peter's Square, and we got to stay in St. Peter's Square and hold it strong. And hilariously, there was a victory there, because basically the Britain First people were supposed to also take a similar route that was going to sort of bypass St. Peter's Square and then go onwards to this Castlefield Bowl. And it turns out, because there was so many of us and because we were so defiant in our march, that the police basically switched tactics last minute and said, no, they can't come down here. We'll just take them up the back alleys. So everyone on the mics, we were all like screaming and with joy for that. We were like, we've got a victory. They're off our streets. They couldn't even come the route they wanted to. And that's because of us. And I was like, yes. So that was just like an epic moment. And then the drums were going and everyone was sort of celebrating, which was really good. So they literally had to piddle them back down these really small back alleys, which is hilarious. So sucks to be them. And honest to God, I've seen videos and pictures and stuff online of what their demonstration looked like. Oh my God, the embarrassment. Flop Tina, bitch. Flop Tina. Oh my God. Shame. But are we surprised? No, we're not. So anyway, that's kind of just my general story time, a bit of back context. But let me just get into the vid, get into my little, we'll call it the documentary section. I felt like a bloody journalist when I was there. I was like voice recording. I was like, oh, I'm reporting live on scene. So it was kind of fun to do that. I was not feeling confident enough to like fully vlog myself. I was like, oh my God, I can't. I'm on my own. Like, I feel weird. I can't do that. So I just did lots of like filming other stuff and then doing like voiceovers. So I'm going to try and work that out in the edit. And here's the final product. Okay guys, the day is here. She's got her sign, fascism not welcome. Although, to be honest, I might have to leave the sign behind. It is kind of scheduled to rain today, which is not ideal. Classic UK winter weather, can't be relied upon. And it's got like paint on it, and I fear that if even a smidge of rain gets on this, it's going to ruin my sign, which has been proudly displayed in my window for quite some months. So I reckon they'll probably have some signs there to give out. The Women Against the Far Right organisation and Stand Up to Racism were kind of leading this. They sometimes come with their own placards. So I'm sure when I'm there, I can probably get one. So don't mind me while I'm just brushing my teeth before I go. But yeah, today should be an interesting day. I mean, we've got Jeremy Corbyn there doing sort of some speech, I guess. Bear with. We got to be minty fresh for this protest. Oh, okay, we're minty fresh. But yeah, well, here we go, lads. Let's do activism.
This is a service to contact kindness via Piccadilly.
Our crowd is getting bigger. I feel like I'm getting shorter. And I'm very conscious people can't hear us, so we're going to get another mic, so just bear with us. But in the meantime, say it loud and say it clear. Oh God, that was shit, wasn't it? Say it loud and say it clear.
Refugees are welcome here.
Say it loud and say it clear.
Refugees are welcome here.
Say it loud and say it clear.
Refugees are welcome here.
Good afternoon, Manchester. Thank you all for coming out today. I am the daughter of proud immigrants. I am a daughter who has spent her life in public service. I have helped people on the front line. I have helped those who have less than me. I have helped those who have more than me. And this is what we need to remember. Many of us will be immigrants. Many of us will descend from immigrants, and we should be proud of who we are.
Comrades, the sun is shining on us, and sun shines on the righteous. We're on the right side of the history.
So our next speaker is Muffin Ali, who's the Deputy Leader of the Green Party.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So it's always amazing to see such a lovely crowd come out, but not under these circumstances. When fascists walk on our streets, we have to come out and make sure that, as the famous philosopher Gandalf says, they shall not pass! Oh, Jericho!
I'm just going to butt in here. I'm just going to butt in the love fest going on behind me. So as I said, stand up to racism. We like to bring people together. And how often is it when you see people from different political parties coming together? Right behind me, that's the new politics. That's the unity we're talking about. We've got the Green Party. I don't think Jeremy needs much introduction. But isn't it great to have your party here as well? Jeremy, over to yourself.
Good afternoon, Manchester! Fantastic to be here. Muffin, come alongside. We're here, I'm speaking on behalf of your party, he's speaking on behalf of the Greens. We're absolutely united in the need to defeat the far right, defeat reform, defeat the
Hey, we're on the move, folks. We're on the move. We're doing our own march, and everyone is following the Palestinian drummers. Exciting. I don't know what I'm doing right now. I'm just voice noting, but this might go over the footage, so let's see if this ends up in the pod. I'm stuck in a park here. We've just had a bunch of speeches, and now we're going over to essentially face Britain first. In the streets, police horses everywhere. There's a separation, there's a police barrier separation. Ooh, somebody's hitting the sign. I'm trying to get as much footage as I can, so here we go, lads, here we go. Okay, they're moving away. turnout. Marching back now. Britain First have gone away, so we're over down this sad little rally. And we're all following the herd back to Piccadilly Gardens, which is where all the speeches were happening earlier on. I think they're probably going to have some more trade unionists, more speeches. So we're just kind of following the crowd right now. And let's see what happens next. But the vibe is strong. The energy is palpable. And it's exciting. It's exciting to be a part of. So more of this energy. Oh my god, there's a girl with a parrot backpack and the most extravagant outfit I've ever seen. I'm living. Oh my god, look at her. What a slay. She's got the pink hair, she's got the parrot with a bow tie, the whole thing is amazing. So lines of police are kind of following us along where we're going. I'm going to widely guess we're going towards St. Peter's Square, which is the main circle and hub of protests. So I'm just kind of following the crowd right now and seeing what will happen. But the police are very much in tandem. And it's all a bit of a guessing game, so let's see how we go. Okay, we're basically taking over the tram lines at this point. We're just walking where the trams would usually be. The trams have stopped. They're probably thinking, bloody hell, what have we come into you? But I think it's pretty clear that we are marching towards St. Peter's Square right now. So let's go, lads, back to the place where it all takes place. Okay, we've made it to St. Peter's Square. We have arrived in force. Everyone on the streets taking photos, everyone staring. The look down the back of Mosley Street, all of us arriving is just astounding. There's so many of us, which is amazing. And I'm also just spotting the Ukraine protesters, which is amazing. So we're all here, we're in force, and we're making a big impact. So come on, fuck the fascists. Let's do this. There you have it. And on that note, the British weather has come through, the rain has started to pour, and I'm heading back to the tram after a good few hours. I'm bloody exhausted, but I'll give all my thoughts probably in this next section of the pod, actually speak properly on the mic. But wow, what a day. Thanks for joining me. So there we go, hens. Thank you very much for paying attention to my journalistic skills this week. I just want to say in general, I came away from that feeling more and more positive and hopeful, seeing the unity, the joy, the love that most of us experience and express to others, knowing that sad little group of mainly sad little men were so outnumbered by us. It gives me so much hope for the future. And whilst we're stuck in this weird limbo situation in this country where there is a threat of far-right nationalism and there is a lot of hatred and division, you really do see it for yourself that things are better than you think. I would like to say that I'm feeling hopeful that we won't see a day where Nigel Farage and Reform will take over. Of course, I could be wrong. We'll never know until we get to that point. But I would like to think that if this level of people can come out for these instances, then hopefully that means they can come out to the bloody ballot boxes when the time comes. So I choose to hold on to that hope for now, and let's end on that positivity. And of course, if you want to chat to me in the comments, DMs, whatever, if you want to get into some political debate and your thoughts and feelings on this whole thing, then feel free to message me. Like, if you're interested, come on the pod. Like, if you're into being a guest, just let me know. Like, I definitely would like to reach out and find some people who enjoy talking about this stuff and have you on so we can just discuss further, keep monitoring the situation and go from there. So yeah, anyway, have a fabulous rest of your week, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.